Hey, I'm Don Kiski. Thanks for checking out the Whitetail Freaks YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new weekly content.
Whitetail Freaks, presented by Realtree. This show is all about the best moments of 2018. The season had some ups and downs over the hunting year, but overall, the season was full of high moments that saw some mega giant deer hit the ground. Grab your snacks and enjoy the show. And as your favorite fancy TV show chef would say, bon appetit.
Hey, give me some, Kiski. We just shot a big old buck. Get butter in your nose, yeah? Huh? I'm bleeding. We just shot a big old buck and I cut my nose.
Southern Illinois freak Jake Stokey was coming off a fulfilling season from last year when he killed a buck known as Gary.
An awesome trophy for me. This was a big deer we call Gary. And if you just look at the Roman nose on this deer, I've never killed a deer with a nose like that on him. And to me on this deer, that is the freaking trophy.
This year, Jake was seeking the big 9 buck that he mistakenly passed last year.
The year before, I made a mistake. I thought the deer was only 4. He turned out, after going through pictures, he was probably 5, maybe even 6. But we decided to go check one camera on a stand that we hadn't hunted yet this year. It was a Maristep blind that we'd put on a tower overlooking about half an acre of standing beans. And sure enough, we pulled that camera, and the night before, we had a big 9-point that I'd passed up the season before. Didn't change much in size, maybe picked up a little mass and a little width, but he was no doubt a mature deer.
So when this big 9 shows up in the bean field, Jake wasn't going to make the same mistake twice and pulls the trigger on his CVA.
Oh man, that is the big 9 I passed last year. I really regretted passing him last year. He is down right there, baby, yes. This is the deer that we came in here and killed tonight. And what it boiled down to was Josh and I ran the cameras today midday, and this deer was hitting a food plot that we haven't hunted much this year. So I am extremely happy to end the chapter on the big 9.
For our next best moment, we look to Southeast Iowa. The freaks in Southeast Iowa had a huge and successful year, and Whitetail freak Spencer Atwood gets the Southeast Iowa killing train going with a buck known as the Split G2 buck.
Tyler pulled those cards on the Brownings, and we had a Split G2 buck.
Spencer then made a game plan to slip into the redneck blind, overseeing the field the Split G2 frequents.
Just like clockwork on this farm, Tyler goes, I just saw a big buck. And sure enough, it was a Split G2 buck. We just kind of relied on our senses, and we knew that he was going to follow those does into the food plot, just the way he was acting all the way through the process.
And Spencer wastes no time to drop him with a CVA.
Just to know that I've got to put a tag on a really mature buck and an awesome deer in my book. It really just capped off a 2017 season for me.
Here we are, guys. We've got the Split G2 buck in our hands. He is a freaking stud. This is pretty rewarding, so here he is. We can't be happier.
Next, Southern Illinois freak Jason Bosaw had a busy farming season and wasn't able to hunt until late in the hunting season.
You know, every year I'll get a deer that I don't know, but the double bean buck was one of those deer. When he started showing up late June, I think it was just a deer that come up, you know, where the water pushed him and he stayed. This was the first year that I actually am for sure that this was the deer that I was hunting.
On November 28th, when Jason finally got his chance to hunt, the weather was 80 degrees, and much to Jason's surprise, the double beam buck shows up in the field.
And he was right there. I mean, it was picture perfect 40 yards.
And Jason pulls back his Matthews and lets it eat.
Boom. He's down right there in the pot.
What an awesome deer. 70-degree temperatures, didn't expect it. Just went in because I haven't got to hunt but 3 times this year. Big buck down.
Next up on the Southeast Iowa Freaks farm was a buck Tyler Reese knows all too well. A buck Tyler had experience with the year before, known as the short-tined 10 buck.
I've got a deer on this farm from last year that was 3 or 4, and I was expecting him to really blow up.
The year prior, Tyler encountered the short-tined 10, but his rack didn't fulfill his potential.
All his points are very similar in size. He's just really steady all the way across.
So Tyler gives the short-tined 10 buck another year to mature. And sure enough, he appears the next year in the field.
And clear across the field, this short-tined 10, I see him come out, and he looks great. I mean, he looks really good, and I was really thinking he'd blow, and he just didn't. I mean, he really didn't. He put a little bit of mass on.
But this year, Tyler decides to take him out with a CVA.
Oh, that is a short-tined 10. The short-tined 10, he could be high 50s. I don't really know. He's got good mass. We're having another heck of a year here in Southeast Iowa.
We're talking about the best moments of Whitetail Freaks 2018. Before the break, you saw Tyler Reese take down a buck that didn't blow up as expected, called the short-tined 10.
We're having another heck of a year here in Southeast Iowa.
But Tyler also had a busy year. And there was another buck he really wanted to go after, named the Boxy 10.
This was a year where I raised my hand up and said, I really want to kill the Boxy 10.
The Boxy 10 emerged on the Browning trail cameras in 2012 and captured his growth over a span of 7 years. When you were a 7-year-old buck munching on Antler King your whole life, someone's gonna take notice.
Now he's 7 years old. It's like, how many years do you have a chance to get a 7-year-old deer on the ground?
The interesting thing about the Boxy 10 was that he would emerge only a few days every season and then disappear. But luckily for Tyler, he caught him in the field this season and was about to make him disappear for good this time. But it was a non-lethal hit.
Not a drop, not a speck of blood on the arrow or the broadhead.
Later in the season, Tyler gets a surprise visit by a familiar foe.
Guess who? The Boxy 10 decides to stand up out of this rose bush. The clock was ticking, and I was like, I know I can get that Hornady right through that bush.
And the Boxy 10 took a lethal Hornady round this time around.
This is a huge deer. This is an awesome deer, it's an old buck.
The season had a lot of surprises. And Kandi Kiske had a few surprises of her own when she saw a bobcat walk by her blind on her birthday.
That was awesome, bobcat.
An even bigger surprise happened when an elusive buck called the Big 9 made an appearance.
All the deer are eating in the Antler King, the lights out, and the radishes that I'd planted, and I was in disbelief. I looked up, and there was the Big 9.
The Big 9 was a 6-year-old buck that lit up the Browning trail cameras. Ironically, Don or Kandi never had an encounter with him.
This is the buck that I probably have never had in front of my blind in 6 years, and he's gonna walk right in front of Kandi.
And just as the Big 9 shows up,
There's another deer coming in for him.
another bully buck named Goofy also makes an appearance.
Oh, that's Goofy.
But Kandi decides the elusive Big 9 buck is too tempting and readies her bow before he disappears out of their life.
You want to squeeze it if you don't.
Whew, I love that buck. It's my birthday, and I am pumped.
Man, this was so exciting. He come walking across that lights out and slam dunk. Don had planted all around the edge of the standing cord food plot. I am perfectly happy to put my tag around this beautiful animal. Look at the blood. Now that's called blood sport.
Don and Kandi have been taking care of business the last several years. As long as giant whitetails are willing to pass in front of their CVA muzzleloader or Matthews bow,
Guess what? Don't stress down.
it's always going to end in the same result.
Good frame deer, good beams, good solid whitetail, man.
Not even sleet nor snow is going to keep them from doing their job.
Have such a great history to this deer. He's at least 6, maybe 7 years old.
Kind of like the mail service.
We got him.
But these guys don't take the lesser-known holidays off. And they always deliver.
Just a beautiful buck.
So when Shai's buck, a 170-inch monster, shows up in front of Kandi's Ameristep line, she relies on Don's help to keep her nerves in check.
Luckily, Don always talks me through it. You know, it's a mental game. We know it is.
Shai's buck was named after Shai Anderson, who had the very first encounter with this buck a year prior and gave him a pass. Then, Don and Kandi also had an encounter with him shortly after.
I wanted to shoot him, but he said I can't. I think he's crazy.
Now, a year later, Shai's buck put on another 28 inches and went from a 145 to a 173-inch monster. And that had Kandi excited as he made his way within range of Kandi's bow.
We're all pumped up now. It's the first time in the blind, basically, and she shoots at 173.
Man, look at this beautiful buck. Look at the characteristics, the curving tines, the beautiful long tines, the beams. Just, man, he is going to score nicely. What a beautiful buck. Look at him.
This show is all about the best moments of 2018. And the best moments wouldn't be complete without the mentioning of the Southeast boys having a hugely successful year. Spencer took the split G2 buck.
Yes! He is a freaking stud.
Then, Tyler took down the short tine 10.
That is a short tine 10. We're having another heck of a year here in Southeast Iowa.
And soon after, Tyler also took out the Boxy 10.
Awesome deer, an old buck.
Now it's Woody Orn's chance to shine, as he has a couple of hit listers that he's gunning for.
Now we've got a classic Apollo versus Rocky theme going out here, and I'm just itching to get a chance at one of these deer.
Early on, the Browning trail cameras were picking up a nice studly 9-point buck that Woody named Rocky.
You know, he just came out and had those big heavy bases and heavy beams.
However, all of a sudden, another contender showed up, and this got Woody all excited.
I'm flipping through and I'm seeing pictures of Rocky, and then all of a sudden, here's this big frame deer staring right at the Browning, and I'm thinking, holy crap, that is a pretty looking deer.
So one cold day while Woody was hunting, a mystery buck shows up that Woody was sure on taking. And after killing him, he didn't realize that it was in fact Apollo after all.
This bonus buck, or so I thought, is Apollo.
I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am and how fortunate I feel to be able to wrap my Iowa late season muzzleloader tag around a stud, mature whitetail like this.
Apollo was a giant whitetail, but what you didn't know was that Woody actually killed a bigger buck earlier in the season with his bow, and that buck was a 182 5/8-inch stud named Captain Jack.
I see an inside tine and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's no way that's him. But there is no denying that is Captain Jack. No sooner did I stop blowing on that thing and he hopped up out of that ditch and was on a beeline coming right for me. Thankfully, in this situation, I've got a Tacticam on my bow, and I turned it on right before he came in. So I've got that Tacticam on him, and I know that's gonna fill in the gaps that I missed with my main camera.
Was fortunate enough to punch my Iowa bow tag tonight, and I could not be happier. This is the buck we were in here after. Captain Jack is taking his last sail.
The biggest buck of the season was killed by none other than Tyler Reese. Tyler capped off the Southeast Iowa Freaks' big year with the #1 hit lister, a buck called Dynamite.
He was really on the top of the list. I mean, he was the buck that I was going to target.
Tyler hunted out of a redneck blind repeatedly until Dynamite finally showed up.
I put the knocks on him, and for sure that's him. Put him down. Don't think about what's walking in.
Tyler makes a great shot on the biggest buck of the Whitetail Freak season.
I can't even tell you how excited I am right now. It does not get any better than this. I love this so much, and like I said, this is the buck we came in here after. This is a 5 or 6 year old, we're not totally sure. Big old Rappy 10, I love it. You can't beat that.
This season also highlighted many first moments, like when Tom Rainey from Browning received his first tag to hunt in Iowa.
First shotgun season in Iowa. And no, I'm not hunting. This guy over here is Tom Rainey.
How you doing? I'm here on my first ever deer hunt in Iowa. I'm kind of super excited.
Cue deer. Tom Rainey pulls the trigger on his CVA. And after the shot, it looked as if Tom had missed.
I'm almost positive you missed that deer. Oh, you're kidding me. I couldn't have missed him. I had it dead on him.
I was middle of the lungs, too.
I rewound the footage and looked at it. Sure enough, it was perfect. It was right behind the front leg. The bullet went through and ricocheted and hit the dirt and just made it appear that he missed him.
The biggest deer I've ever shot at the foot of this hill. So I don't have the opportunity to hunt many big deer. Super grateful to Don and Kandi for giving me the opportunity to come up here and try and kill the biggest deer I've ever killed. Heck, I don't think I've seen many deer this big. Nice mainframe 10. Couldn't be happier with this deer.
And there was also a first moment for Shauna Bosaw as she traded in her camera duty for a muzzleloader. It was her first turn to be filmed. This was her first hunt to be filmed by husband Jason.
If I could just say cute deer, we'd be good to go.
This one redneck blind we've been hunting a little bit had an antler king plot to the south of it. There was a lot of deer coming in, a lot of new deer. We had a couple Browning trail cameras. We're getting a couple pretty nice 10-pointers, and one of them for sure that she seen it and she goes, "That's a nice deer," and she immediately wanted to shoot that deer as soon as she seen it.
And cue deer. The 10-point does in fact show up for Shauna like she'd wanted.
He's down.
Are you sure? I've not ever shot a deer on film. This is number one. The CVA did its job. Awesome. Awesome deer.
And then there was a first moment for Tyler Reese, who already had a successful year, killing 2 great bucks earlier in the season, and capped it off with a mega #1 deer of the entire Whitetail Freaks season, a 183 7/8" buck named Dynamite. It would now be Tyler Reese's first moose hunt in Manitoba, Canada, with Weber's Lodge's Outfitters.
So we got a whole bunch of moose. We're not hunting elk. I'm sitting at work and I get a phone call from Don. And Don's like, he's like, "Hey Ty, I got a moose hunt."
So when this big bull moose slowly made his way to Tyler, he got a chance to put the Bergara 300 mag to good use and knocked down his first moose ever.
That's a big bull. That is a big animal. That's like a horse, man. This has been such a good experience. This bull looked gargantuan coming across. Awesome, awesome experience.
Since Tyler killed early in the hunt, his cameraman Ryan even had a chance to kill one too.
He was just coming up over the top of this ridge. He's a great bull, great big pans. Ryan made quick work of him, just like I had with my bull.
First moose for this guy. Big thanks to Weber's Lodges, Tyler our guide. Whitetail Freaks, baby. Moose down.
No best moments highlight reel would be complete without the fun and zany adventures of the Swamp Freaks, Troy and Jacob Landry. This lovable Louisiana duo have made the trek to Candyland in Iowa for several years now.
One and only Candyland.
And have put in the time to be able to shoot 'em a big ol' Iowa buck consistently.
I say, we're gonna shoot a big buck.
You know, I shot the biggest buck the last 2 years, and kind of looks like year 3 is going pretty good for me also.
This year, Jacob drew first blood when this nice buck appears exactly where the Browning said it would.
Big buck down, baby.
Yes. What a magnificent animal. Look at that, huh? What an awesome buck.
Next, it was Troy's turn, and he had a dilemma.
We had, all of a sudden, we had to make a choice. We had 2 giant deer in front of us, pig nose, and Don wasn't sure what the other deer was. We actually talked for 5 minutes trying to decide which one to shoot, but we decided to go after pig nose.
So it was Pig Nose that was on the receiving end of Troy's CVA.
On the first night.
Come here, Kandi, look what I got. You know which one that is?
That's pig nose, baby.
The Whitetail Freak season had its share of the unexpected.
Man, look at this beautiful buck.
The excitement of taking down mega giant whitetails.
I love this so much.
The new year brings new challenges, new goals, a new amount of work getting ready for the next season, and especially important, a new set of hit listers showing up on the Browning trail cameras that will get these hunters excited for what's in store for the upcoming season.
Here we are, Candyland, Iowa.